Here are 3 lessons I learned since becoming a homeowner. One of the first things I had to learn since becoming a homeowner is being aware of what needs maintenance and how often. So, for instance, when I first became a homeowner, I wasn't completely aware of how often I should have changed my air filter. So, after a while, that's something that I have set up now in my phone on a schedule that allows me to make sure I'm always on top of making sure that air filter is renewed and replaced. Another thing that I, for instance, needed to figure out and be reminded of is to check fire alarms and stuff like that. Now, that's not something you have to do every month, but when I first moved in, I think there was one that died really quickly after I moved in. And so now every 6 months or so, I go and I check those fire alarms. And carbon monoxide is another one. Another thing that I make sure I'm always aware of is making sure that I'm cleaning out all the lint out of the dryer. So that's something, and not the one that's right in the front, it's the one that goes out the vent that goes out of the back. Sometimes there's lint and dust that gets kind of stuck in there. And so now I make sure I go out and I clean that tubing because that's a fire hazard. Another one that I want to just specifically call out was my gutters. So I never realized how often and how many leaves and dirt kind of get stuck in gutters, cause them to get heavy, especially when we had that rainy season. So those are a couple items that I always personally make sure that I'm doing maintenance on, but there's a ton of more things that need to be checked out and maintained in the house. So that's one of the first things. Another thing that I would say that I learned since becoming a homeowner is being aware of trees and branches and stuff that are kind of near the house. So the lesson I learned was on my property, there is a tree that's growing in the back that was near the roof. I didn't really look at it until I noticed some water intrusion. I was where is this coming from? And long story short, the branch had grew to a point where it was scraping the roof, and it got so bad that it completely ripped off some of the roofing, and I had to get up there and replace it and trim the branches. So just being aware of kind of things that are growing in and around the house. So maybe power lines or phone lines or internet lines and things like that, just making sure that stuff doesn't cause any damage. And the last thing that I would say that I started doing since I became a homeowner was making sure I get quotes. So, before I moved into my home, I was a renter for my whole life. And, I just never had to ever deal with that type of stuff really. And since becoming a homeowner, I'd get a quote and and I'd pay it. I was kind of probably in the first month or so. And after a while, I started okay, let me get more quotes. I always tell my clients to do that, but it'd be an emergency or it'd be a small thing to me. And I was all right, let me just go ahead and just pay this real quick, pay this one person that either I know or, I knew from a professional setting. I've referred them to my clients. I didn't get a second or third quote. And so that's something that's super important. But then what I also started doing was also just researching the work that needed to be done. So this may be DIY websites, YouTube, obviously, of actually learning and understanding what needs to be fixed and how it's done. And I would say 40% of the time, even after getting these quotes, I'd be that's something I can do. So, the roof thing was one example. Another example was when I was installing a dishwasher in the house. And so those are things that, on the surface, I was yeah, I don't know if I want to be on a roof and buying all these tools that I've never used, or, trying to install a dishwasher because I don't want it to flood. But, after some research and planning, some of those things were really easy to do. So those are the 3 things that I feel I've learned since becoming a homeowner. So there's maintaining a maintenance schedule, kind of being aware of trees and things like that could damage the house, and then just making sure I get quotes for services that I need, but also doing the research to see if that's something that me as a homeowner, I can just knock out myself. So yeah. Anyways, my name is Wells McDowell, real estate agent here in Sacramento. If you have any home needs, goals that you're looking to accomplish, I'd love to help. Touch base with me, call or text. All right.